2019 was not a good year for me. I had settled into a comfort zone at work. I had a lot of distractions. I was blogging about parenting. That wasn't getting any traction either. And on top of all this, I started feeling behind. So I was comparing myself with people who are younger than me, yet seemed to be more successful, had better jobs and titles and whatnot. My mom passed away that year, so that hit me really hard. So I remember being down and I was hurting, and I know many of you might be like in a similar situation, which is why I made this video to kind of talk about like how I dug myself out of this hole. So now don't get me wrong, so even at that time I knew my priorities, but still things were not working for me. I wasn't seeing any progress, I wasn't seeing any success, something was missing. It took me a while, but I kind of figured out gradually. Alright, let's fast forward to now, which is about 12 to 15 months from the time I was feeling down. I have achieved quite a few things that I'm really proud of. I actually passed an AWS Solution Architect certification. I posted a video about it, which you guys liked. I took a couple of DevOps courses. I learned Spinnaker, Terraform, Python, MySQL. I got promoted at work. I meditated for over 200 days in a row. I posted about 50-60 YouTube videos. I immersed myself in a great personal development program. I read a lot of books. All this on top of being a father to a 5-year-old and a husband. I had to help with his remote learning needs, keeping up with my chores, etc, etc, etc. So what happened? So let me share with you how all this became possible. A few insights that I had along this way. Now, first of all, let me get the most obvious thing out of the way, which is COVID and pandemic, which means no traveling, no visiting friends, no birthday parties, no guests, no commuting to work, no hauling my son to and fro his school. So that actually freed up a lot of time. So all that aside, what were the insights actually? How did I use and apply them in my life? Let's talk about that. Insight number 1, aligning your personal interests with your career. Back then in 2019, I was blogging about parenting. From there, actually, I changed to being a YouTuber who teaches technical skills. And this one change alone reduced so much friction in my life. Before, it used to be like day and night, the difference between these two. But now, these two things, they sort of complement each other. Whatever I learn at work come in handy when I make my YouTube videos. Whatever I learn during the research for my videos, I can take that knowledge and apply it at my work. So insight number 2, creating external accountability. We're making promises to ourselves all the time in terms of goals and intentions, but rarely we keep them, and we often let ourselves off the hook and kind of not follow through. The before version of me would buy so many online courses, these self-paced online courses, but rarely actually I even started them. And even if I started, I would not finish them. So I was reading this book called Willpower Doesn't Work by Benjamin Hardy, and I learned about the importance of accountability in that book. And I was looking for some ways to apply that in my life. And I came across this massive course called Masters in DevOps Engineering, and it was offered by a private institution. The most important thing is it is instructor led, and they also tracked my assignments and my projects, and that kept me accountable actually. So because of that, I forced myself to attend 6 hours of courses and classes every week. I sat with the discomfort, and I completed my assignments, I completed my projects, due to which I gained so much knowledge that I didn't have before. At some point in my life, I would like to be in a place where I don't have to depend on something external for me to be able to follow through with my intentions. But right now, this is what is working for me. So insight number 3, having a growth mindset. In the beginning of 2020, my manager, my boss at the time, had presented me with this new opportunity to work in a different team of his. And if I was to go ahead with that opportunity, I would have to learn a bunch of things like Python, AWS, and all these like CI/CD pipeline tools, etc., etc. And I actually at the time didn't have any of this knowledge. I had taken a few basic Python courses. I had done some shell scripting, PL SQL programming, and that kind of thing. I thought I would be able to do it. I believed in myself. You know how you never feel 100% confident before you do the work yourself? That's how I felt. I had that self-doubt, but I actually jumped into the unknown. I don't think I wrote the most efficient code or designed my Python classes properly, but I got the job done. I figured out we were able to deliver a project because of that, that added so much value and that brought new capabilities into this organization. But all of this wasn't a cakewalk. I had to get into a growth mindset. I asked like really simple and stupid questions on a daily basis. I reached out to my colleagues for help. I worked really hard to get clarity on my deliverables and I delivered them. And even after delivering my project, I was given a lot of feedback from which I got to know that there were bugs and issues in my code. And I had to keep my mind open and focus on just improving the product rather than getting bummed. So now I'm in a better place. I've gained a bunch of new skills because of that one thing. I made the decision, being in the growth mindset, to jump into the unknown, and I took on new challenges. So that's what I would tell you as well. Develop this growth mindset, take on new challenges, and that will help you grow. Insight number 4, communicating about your work to your management. I have come a long way in this regard. I used to be like, well, why should I talk about my work? My manager should do it, or my work should speak for itself. That kind of thing. I went from that to now I go like, how can I talk about my work that helps me and the management? And when I started doing this, I started seeing a lot of benefits. One being that management likes this a lot. They like to see this kind of clarity among individual contributors about their projects and what kind of value their projects are bringing to the table. And it gives me clarity, as in I am actually like doing something meaningful. And if I'm not able to explain that in simple terms, then something is really wrong actually, because then that means the project that I'm working on is not really useful, it's not adding any value, and why am I working on it anyway? If you find yourself in a rut, in a place where things are not going well for you at work, then I recommend you to think of ways to close the gap between your personal interest and your career. Create some sort of external accountability so you can follow through on your goals and your intentions, and develop this growth mindset at work, which means like working really hard, putting in your best effort, and seeking feedback, and basically receiving the feedback with open-mindedness and seeking for help, and finally like communicating well at work. So if you implement these 4 things, I think you will see a big difference in a few months. I will leave you guys with my life's motto, which is be kind to yourself. As my favorite professor BJ Fogg would say, you change best by feeling good. Adios.